everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Warrior Goddess Wednesday. I'm going to call it that. And we have Topical Illusions, and we are live. Welcome to the show, our weekly show where we delve into stories, or rather the grand illusion of life, and going through exactly where we are, which is Toronto, and just kind of the stories that have affected us in our journey.
Or that flow in and out of ours and everybody else's life, where there's actually common resonance.
Exactly. So last week was our pilot episode, so we kind of just let the wind take us where we will. But today we actually do have a topic that we're going to delve into, and I'm going to let you, Joanne, take us on what we're going to be talking about today.
I'm not sure if I can sort of verbalize it very, very well, but
I think she can. Go for it. Whatever comes off the top of your head, I'll
I think we'll be looking at the physical manifestations of. Say again.
Let's start with the stars right now. Yes. Astrologically, you guys, it's really spicy, right? It's we have a lot of stuff going in Neptune, so we could actually do a whole stuff about dreams that we've had and how they actually relate to like life right now. Your dreams should be super intense these days. They should be full of meanings for you.
And then possibly not necessarily as normal or as regular. There should be a whole different type of metaphysical language that's pouring through.
100%. So downloads, codes, whatever you want to call it, whatever your internal glossary wants you to use those words for, whatever woo-woo you want to think it is. Regardless of that, we are in a really interesting time.
Yes.
Overall, we can just put it that way. So this show is about looking at that.
Yes.
And through art and also through actors who have been avatars, who hold a lot of these characters and act them out for us. Because I do believe that, I've told you guys this many times on the live, that I think that anything that we find resonance with, right? If you have a favorite movie, a favorite song, a favorite actor in a particular role, these are all clues for you about you, because it's something in whatever they're doing or whatever art they're putting forth that is like vibing with you. And so
it's almost like you're seeing that reflection, even if it's just a glimmer within the stream, you're seeing that reflection.
And a little aha moment in your head, or deja vu, or a little tingle on the back of your neck, and to trust that a little bit more, and to interpret our own inner dialogue signs for ourselves to ourselves is the kind of thing. And I think art and creative work is how we do that.
Yes.
And so what we're going to talk about today is Joanne came up with this topic. That's why I want her to introduce it. But I'll let you riff off of me.
Okay,
fair enough. Do that. So Robin Williams is a wonderful actor, and I have a very personal story about Robin Williams and a friend of mine who has passed. And so we wanted to talk about transformation in actors, and not necessarily, let's say, from this realm into the next realm, but rather through a transformation of a physical manifestation or transformation, right?
Yes.
So whether it be a heart surgery or an accident of some sort where you lose the use of limbs, or you end up in a situation where you're just not the same person that you were after this particular event. So Joanne, do you want to riff on that?
And so I was so my main thought was, a lot of the times in some cases actors, I think it was mentioned, I mentioned it the last time, where there's a heart stoppage for some reason.
The heart stops.
So Robin Williams had heart surgery. A few other actors.
Do you know why that happened?
I can't remember. Was it a bypass? I can't remember why.
But it was an open heart surgery.
Yes.
And his heart had stopped.
Yes.
Okay.
They had to stop and start, and then restart it for that particular surgery. And they do that a lot of times when they're going to be doing something that's really, really intense in terms of the work. So they'll stop the heart, and maybe they'll put the stents in or whatever, and then they'll restart the heart. And I believe that happened to Robin Williams. I think that happened also to Tracy Morgan. And Tracy Morgan was another actor, comedian, who was in a really, really horrific car accident.
Yeah.
But the thing that I've noticed is that when you sometimes come across a performer who has gone through something like that, they don't come back the same. Or as I was trying to describe it earlier, it's almost like they have all of this pressure behind them, and all that stuff that we were familiar that used to flow out easily no longer can. It's almost like it's stuck in a bottleneck, and they're slower. So if you think about Robin Williams earlier in his career, he would do all the things. He had the Scottish and the creating golf routine. We would see him when he would be on places like Johnny Carson or some of his other television shows. And then I think one of his last TV shows was.
I'm trying to look up the date of Robin Williams' surgery
yes.
and see if there's like the dates of like the movies after.
Yes,
right?
that would be cool. And I know he had it near the end of his time here. He had a TV show that was with I want to say Sarah Gellar. Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think it's Sarah Michelle Gellar. If it's not Sarah Michelle Gellar, it is Callista Flockhart, but I think it's Sarah Michelle Gellar. And you can sort of see that I think he plays somebody higher up in this firm, but he's very reserved in his demeanor. And Robin Williams can do that. Like you could see him, he was menacing in that he had a movie where he was a film developer, and he fell in love with this family who he thought they had the most perfect life based on their photos, and then he realized that they weren't, and he went a little crazy. Then there was also he had also appeared, I think, on Law and Order as well, and I think those are prior to his surgeries. But so we know that he can play subdued, and he can play subtle, and he can play menacing.
Do you have a favorite movie that Robin Williams was in? We have a lot of love for Robin Williams.
Everybody has a lot of love.
Oh yeah, Def. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes. You got a little gift here. Robin Williams, dude, he's my favorite person in the world to me. I think he's great. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Totally. And let's see here. He was amazing, 100%. Yes. And I love. Do you have a favorite movie that he was in? Do you have No, we're good.
Okay. I know that I remember always being impressed with Dead Poets Society.
Oh, I love Dead Poets
right?
Society.
It was one of those ones where it was just like, oh my gosh. And it captures those kind of Catcher in the Rye. And there's another author who wrote about young men that way. I'm trying to remember. I enjoyed Mrs. Doubtfire, but the one, it's really funny. It's not a serious role, but it's his role in Jumanji.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, and there's something very specific about it. And so first of all, you see him, and he's a grown man, and he rapidly goes from being like a kid to a grown man. But when he comes out of the game after being trapped in it, and he runs through the house looking for his parents, the way he called out for mom and dad sounded true to a child. Like if you think about listen to kids,
he
going,
went there himself.
Yes, and it was and it's very rare to find actors who do one small thing, but they capture it so perfectly, and it allows you to sort of go, oh. And so Robin Williams has that. I don't remember. James Gandolfini had a role like that, and it was a movie with Robert Redford, and I think it's in a prison, and Robert Redford, I don't know why he's in the prison, but James Gandolfini admires the Robert Redford character, and he's either created recreations of something, and then Robert Redford's character dismisses him. And it's the one moment, James Gandolfini's character does this thing with his eyes where he sort of takes in at that moment that he wasted his time on this man, and now he's angry. But it was just like a fleeting.
I miss when actors could act like
right,
that.
And so
like that,
yes,
yeah.
So it's the little things like that. But that moment with Robin Williams in Jumanji was the one that was like, oh, not anybody
I love that
could do that. It was all. But all the subsequent Jumanjis are also wonderful.
Oh, true.
Yes,
true
I did. I think that they honored his memory correctly by the way that they did these other films, so that there was still continuity.
Oh yeah. I love it when they do that in terms of having respect for the work that came from before. You can riff on that world if you have a little respect. I just looked up Robin Williams' astro chart actually.
Okay.
I didn't know this. He's a Cancer. Kind of makes sense.
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
But his moon's in Pisces.
Oh, so he has double water.
Yes, and moon in Pisces, people. If you look up your moon sign, I feel like it's a very psychic.
Okay.
It's a very psychic placement. It's a very, because your moon sign represents your subconscious, right?
Yes.
And also, like, your moon's in Taurus.
Yes.
I'm a Taurus.
Yeah.
We love each other. So it's something for you guys to, like, look at as well,
Yes.
like, where you have certain planetary
Yes,
you know,
connections,
harmonies
yes.
and connections where they kind of like a puzzle piece fit. But Moon in Pisces is very Pisces is already a dreamy sign, right?
And
so
emotional,
subconscious.
Yes.
So he's very attuned to the great psyche of the all, right?
Yes, and that would come out in his humor, right? Because it was like his humor came from so many other places. It was almost like you could see all the downloads coming in all at once, and then somehow he managed to weave them all together and then come out with whatever it is. If early Robin Williams had a very particular persona, and I think that he borrowed it from someone. I think there's a film called.
We're all inspired. We're all remixing. That's what I think.
It was. Oh my goodness! It was a Broadway. Is it? Oh my goodness! It was something about putting on a play about Hitler.
Aw, thanks so much, Sorry.
And
I just want to give him life again, because it's especially since he's passed, right?
Yes. I don't think we'll ever forget, and I think he's one of those actors who's the way Bogey is, or John Garfield, those old-time actors where no matter when you see him in time, there'll be 3 or 4 generations after us who will see a Robin Williams film, and it will just be like, oh, and you know he'll be on the pencils, or he'll be on the posters, or there'll be certain types of memes, because he was just so impactful in the things that he did.
Yeah. Before we move to Tracy Morgan and other actors, my favorite movie by Robin Williams is What Dreams May Come.
I don't think I've seen that one. Okay.
It's about his wife commits suicide.
Okay.
So he goes to limbo to go get her. Yeah. And it's I have to rewatch it, but
that would be like
oh yeah, totally. And it's a cool because how they furnish the dreamscape in the movie is very much just like, psychedelic trips.
Yes.
It manages to bring that feeling of what it would be like to be in a liminal space as you're going to she commits. I have to rewatch it. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie.
He has played a lot of movies where something has happened to his wife. Right, because you have that one.
True.
And then
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. No, but death. Is it not in the movie with Matt Damon? That something has characters.
Yeah. You're right.
And something happens to his wife in The Fisher King.
The Fisher King.
And that's also
you guys need to watch The Fisher King.
The Fisher
Jeff
King.
It's got the Arthurian myth in it.
And it's Terry Gilliam who directed it?
Yes, I love Terry Gilliam. Yeah. He's like one of my favorite directors.
Yes.
Brazil.
Brazil was always so hard. Brazil's a hard
watch.
Yeah, it is.
But
really,
me and
really
Kevin love
watch.
Brazil.
Yes, I remember.
I don't know why, but we love, and he always went forever. He goes on these like weird. Next week we're going to talk about music and movies, but like soundtracks of movies are very like.
And Brazil's got a soundtrack,
right? So he likes to play some of the Brazil soundtracks sometimes, and I'm like, are we in dystopia? Like, why are you playing?
I think so. But with Brazil, the other thing, we're tangenting. But even with the ending, there was so much hope, because if you could look at it, it could be one thing. It could either be it's full of despair, or it could be that something it's so wonderful and full of so much hope and adventure and joy. It's one of those things. It's like that. It's like that moment where you have to decide where you see your reflection of yourself, right? If you see it in one way, maybe you should look at what you're processing or what you're going through, and if you see it the other way, it's that same thing. But you could
getting a lot of likes for what you're saying now.
Really?
People are feeling you.
But that was something with Brazil. The other thing about Brazil was to see Robert De Niro in a role like that as well, and I was always impressed.
Have you guys seen the movie Brazil?
You have to
watch it. Must watch. We're gonna put it on the. I'm having. Well, as you guys can see, we're in the cinema right now, so we're gonna hopefully do some movie screenings as well. Like Joanne has never seen The Fifth Element.
No, I have not. I've seen clips of it, but I've not seen The Fifth Element.
Like what?
Yes, and I haven't seen that film that you mentioned with Robin Williams. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of things that I haven't seen.
You are the reason why I've actually watched a lot of films recently, Joanne.
Okay.
I have to credit you for Ed Wood.
Yes.
You guys have to watch Ed Wood. Lisa Marie Presley's in that as Vampira.
Yes, I remember.
And it's about and Johnny Depp looks like he's channeling Ed Wood.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like Johnny Depp is a channeller as well.
I think so. And
for many Hunter S. Thompson. Like he basically he's become
he's like his character Don Juan DeMarco.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Don Juan was that same thing where he sort of channeled. The character itself was a
You
character
just
that
become
should
embodied
yes,
of it.
yes,
Let's
and
see.
Johnny Depp seems to be able to do that quite well.
Let's see here. How old is the movie? And Fisher King a drama or a comedy?
Fisher King, I guess it's like because Terry Gilliam is Monty Python, so I guess it would be a dramedy.
It's a dark comedy.
Yes.
I think that's the exact genre.
Yes, or yes, or
Brazil's a little bit more depressing and dystopian.
It's an absurd 1984, but 1984 was already absurd anyway, but in a very, very different way. And then.
So I wore this shirt today because I'm like repping my 80s,
yes,
my 80s baby self.
Yes,
and Joanne's purple because she is my purple dragon warrior.
But I also just love purple. It's like a purple top and it's all the purple
royalty.
Things.
That's
okay. But
also crown chakra.
Oh, okay.
Royalty.
Yes.
Yeah. Leo.
Yes. I'm trying to.
It all just fits together. Right?
Fisher King, I want to say, is early 80s, and I keep thinking, and I remember.
And Jeff Bridges in it, who is also in Tron.
Yes.
If you guys caught the live last night, I'm so sorry. I was supposed to do a midnight read of Satana.
Okay.
I literally Kevin.
Weren't you dancing?
I was dancing,
Yes,
but I was supposed to be the
that.
pre-show for it, right? And then I have a DC Bombshells book I'm going to read.
Okay.
And it's about this alternate universe where Bruce Wayne doesn't lose his parents.
Oh.
And the war, like there's no war. There's no World War II.
Oh.
It never happens. So like it's like a different timeline, but there's still the hero. It's a
that would be
it's
interesting.
a cool read, right?
Okay.
But it also takes place in almost like a how would I call it? Not cyberpunk, steampunk.
Steampunk.
I love steampunk.
Yeah, steampunk is awesome.
Because steampunk is like you were saying, like fire and water, right?
Yes.
When you have elements of fire and water, you can have either fire evaporate the water.
Yes.
You have either water douse the fire,
yes,
or they work together and you create steam and you power that dish, right? So I feel like when you think about these different elements in yourself and in others, that's how you can kind of alchemize.
Yes, and if you actually go with that with that intention, you can actually make it happen.
Yeah,
yes,
100%.
Opposed to sort of saying, oh, this is normally
or
what happens.
Or you being like water and being like, I'm just going to douse your fire and being like, be just like a wet blanket.
Yes.
As opposed to being like, maybe we can
or
like
being
inspire
extra,
each other.
Yes, or being too extra spicy hot and then just
and then evaporate because you're too much. Like we need like a break sometimes.
Yes. So I like the steam and the powering through.
Yeah, it's a steampunky kind of vibe and look.
Yes.
As well. So really fun to cosplay, I think. So we'll see how that shakes down.
I've only done.
Oh, we'll get started.
I'll see if I can find
wigs. I've got wigs galore.
I'll see if I can find a picture. It was when I was at my last job, and I can't remember. It was like maybe a Halloween thing, and I think I bought the wig at Dollarama. It was a red-headed wig. I got the leather jacket, and black leggings, and so I was Black Widow.
I love Black Widow.
Yeah, so I was black. I was Black Widow.
Oh my gosh, maybe we need to bring her back.
Yeah.
I can see as a redhead. I love the redheads. You always think of spicy. Like when I was growing up, I was that girl who dyed her hair all the time.
Oh.
And so Kevin had I used to model a lot more. I had a model mayhem portfolio. We did a lot. I got paid for photo shoots.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I used to import model and stuff. So Tila Tequila and I were friends.
She's familiar.
Yeah, so we were like before she went all nuts. She was actually a nice girl once upon a time.
What else did she do?
There's Stephanie Sy as well, but I knew her from Import Model Days, where you basically like import tuner day. There's just it's like a magazine where it's like an import car and you stand in front of it.
Okay, so I keep thinking that she was also featured in a maybe.
She also did A Shot of Love with Tila Tequila.
I
know, reality TV show.
I keep thinking, I don't know why I keep thinking I see her in magazines but magazines that were like Cream.
Yeah.
But I don't think Cream was around then.
She was like the original pay for a subscription to my website because I'm hot situation. So she knew how to she was so much smarter than she let herself.
Yes, and I think it was probably fortuitous and smart of her to do that as well, right?
At the time, but then she went really nuts. Hey, Pikachu!
Oh, I remember Pikachu the other day. Hi, Pikachu!
Hey, Pika! Okay, so let's circle back to what we're actually originally talking about, which was today's topic is actors who have undergone some sort of physical transformation, where their persona before and after are
very
not
different.
the same. They're different, and then what we can kind of derive from that in terms of like what that means from like a heart chakra perspective. Because before I came onto this show, I was actually watching something about Canada's Stonehenge, which apparently is in Alberta. This whole concept of this, they call it a medicine wheel, but it's far more. There's far more significant importance to this.
Yes.
It's near Medicine Hat, and I know I have a few people out west, so I might be doing a pilgrimage out there.
Why not? Yes.
Because it's supposed to be a temple to the sun, and certain stones line up astrologically.
And it would make sense for it to be in Alberta, where it's like it's flat.
Yeah,
right? So you would be open to the sun.
Yeah, and it's on like at the top of this like hill, and I grew up in the prairies, right? So I miss like. Me and my friends like ride your bike out where there's like no development and like literally just like fields of grain and just the horizon and you can see the sun. It's literally like it's amazing. I miss it a lot. But to have it out there when you have a clear sky, you literally be able to map everything up to the constellations, right? So it's literally like a star map. And in there's like also keys to like how you unlock yourself. And I do think that the sacred sites on our earth are like chakra centers.
Yes, right? And there's also that belief about the fact that they're connecting ley lines.
Yes.
And there's a belief that a lot of, at least old governments, and the church also knew about the power of ley lines, and they feel, I can't remember who said this years ago, but Toronto is one of those places where it was like they actually tried to, the fact that we're gridded was because they were actually working with ley lines. And then it's the same thing with the at least with the churches that were where they were placed, and especially with the Catholic Church and the placements of something like St. Michael's is placed in a very specific place, and some of the others are placed in they're placed in very specific factions. So sometimes you'll notice that they're either a few are on the south side, but a lot of them are on the north side of the street, or they're on the east side, depending. And so it plays with that whole idea of the mapping in terms of PowerPoints.
Any fan cast of DC Marvel characters that you wished certain actors would play? Ooh, that's a good one. Because you don't like Ryan Reynolds very much.
No.
Who would I cast as, if I could do there's a new Green Lantern movie coming out.
Okay.
And they're doing it more as like thank you for the gift, Ox. Or, sorry. Is it Alex? Alex, sorry, Alex. Yes, thank you. Okay, so Green Lantern, they're doing a live action, but they're doing it as like this gritty kind of space crime. Think of like True Detective, but like, because they kind of are like police force of the galaxy, right? Protecting this sector and all that kind of stuff. So they've cast Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner.
Nathan Fillion? Yeah. Okay, Firefly.
You are a nerd.
Yes, I love Firefly, and we before the whole thing with the storage. We had the movie. It's important. There were certain things that were important to pass on to the 100%, younger people.
That's some classic stuff there. Nathan Fillion's also in Halo 3 ODST as one of the ODST soldiers in that video game.
Oh, and he also plays Hermes in the Percy Jackson movies. But don't watch. Yes, but don't watch. Yeah,
he's Hermes.
Yes.
And that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes, but don't watch. Don't go see the movie. I think the TV shows, the Percy Jackson movies are awful. You
don't like the movies?
No, they weren't.
If you read the books. So I'm gonna read the books.
Read the books, but then if you never read the books,
why don't you like the movies? Do they not follow the books?
They don't follow the books, and they did things that weren't quite right with the characters.
Oh, that's a cardinal sin.
There were certain things. Sometimes they looked a certain way. I was not happy with the presentation of Persephone and Hades in the book. Auntie M, however, played by Uma Thurman, that whole scene, she was fantastic as Auntie M. The kids were a little too old.
Okay.
Yeah, Percy Jackson sort of sit in the same trajectory as Harry Potter. He's much younger, and he sort of becomes a teen throughout it. And in the books, he's already like a big kid. So that was a little bit problematic. I'm trying to remember.
The books are better as well. Yeah, of course, definitely.
Yeah. And they were fantastic. I've done the Percy. I've done the Jasons. I did the Canes. I didn't finish the Apollos, and I didn't do the Norse. The Norse was a little harder to Magnus. I had a harder time with Magnus, but yeah, I know we've seen him twice. And going to see Rick Riordan at an autograph. So it's like he's like the Beatles of young adult kid books. And so the first time we went, it was at the Indigo at Yorkville, and the lineup started on the second floor at the back and wound its way through the stacks on the second floor, and then went down the escalator and then through the store on the first floor. And that was so crazy. And he signed, like, you came up to him and he signed the book for you.
That's cool.
And then the second time that he came back, he did it at a church that's now being torn down at St. George in Bloor, and the place was packed. But he got in, signed all the books in the morning, and then had a Q&A. You paid for your ticket, you got a T-shirt, you got a tattoo, you got your signed book, and you got a Q&A.
I miss those kinds of things.
Yes,
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if do they still do kind of stuff
I think
like
they do, but I don't necessarily. I think Rick Riordan is a very specific type. I think there'll be others. I think there are others. I mean, you can go to Indigo, and there's certain.
Yeah, there's an Indigo near me now. Mm-hmm. At this new place.
Yes,
yeah,
that's
we
right.
need to go check it out. Bookstores are kind of like
and we're going to see,
places.
and we're seeing Nello Hopkinson on Monday, and she is the one who wrote Brown Girl, In the Ring, and she wrote Sister Mine, and she has a new book called Black Heart Man, but that's more of a, I guess, magical realism, but Nello Hopkinson.
I love that magical realism.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's have some more magical
realism. And she's always a very, very interesting writer. So with Brown Girl in the Ring, we totally tangented again. With Brown Girl in the Ring, she writes about Toronto, and it's a very, very sort of dystopian Toronto, in the fact that the downtown core, the city has sort of, the province has sort of given up on the downtown, and so it's sort of left to the criminal element. It's sort of left to the criminal element, and the people who there survive however they can, and they have their own rules. And there is like I guess the head of all of it is. So I guess he would be like a West Indian or a black gang member, and then we have our heroine. So a lot of West Indian mythology and spiritualism comes into it with jumbies and so forth, and the jab, and our heroine actually lives on Riverdale Farm. And she mentions some of our libraries. She mentions like walking along Sherbourne or Carlton, cool. And so it was very interesting. But the other thing was that it was at Ontario's premier is unwell and totally corrupt, and has this agreement with this gang member, and has to go in for surgery, and it's going to be like the heart's going to be replaced by a pig heart. It was very, very interesting, and you can see this. And this is
bringing it back to like the whole heart.
Yes.
Changing.
Yes. And then it was written. It was interesting because we have all this chaos now with our prior mayor, Mr. Ford, and then his brother as premier, and then she wrote it in the early 2000s. Yeah. So then when you read it afterwards, you're like, oh, how interesting! It's almost like she picked up on stuff before they happened. Yeah.
Or she was part of.
Or she was in the conduit.
It's always like you're like aware of like what's coming down in the timeline, and you're like able to like pull it down, which I think most writers are.
Yes, I agree with that too.
A little bit,
and filmmakers.
100%. Anyone who's artistic, I feel like it's. Like, like Aldous Huxley, for example, right?
Yes.
Writing Brave New World. When I read Brave New World when I was 16, I felt something come over me where I was like, oh, this is going to happen.
Yes.
I don't know what it was, but I felt Aldous like through and I actually had a psychedelic experience where, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Aldous Huxley, C.S. Lewis, and JFK all died within 8 hours of each other.
I remember you telling me that.
On the same day, you guys, on the last degree of Sagittarius, on the last degree of Scorpio into Sagittarius.
And I don't think there's not many situations, like I can't think of any others.
What the heck is that all about, right? So you have two world builders, world creators, passing into the other realm at the same time that they kill the president.
Yes.
So it's just this strange.
It's a strange triangle, right? And then Lewis would represent all types of organized religion and a different type of structure, right? And then Aldous Huxley would sort of be the dismantling of structure, while looking at structure, but the dismantling of structure.
I have my theory of this is that. Typically, after a writer passes, their works become there's a resurgence and people revisiting them and like reading those books. Aldous Huxley and C.S. Lewis have books that have keys for you, for us.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I feel like everyone should read Brave New World, but everyone should also read The Island, which is supposed to be Brave New World's antidote.
Yes, and I've read that. I can't remember all of it, but I remember reading it afterwards.
It's think it was Huxley's last book before he died. And Huxley also has a wonderful work about doors of perception, speaking about LSD and like...
And that's where the doors got their name, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I love us, Joanne. Oh my gosh, look at that.
I was a big Doors fan, and
I love the Doors too.
Right, but you know what happens? Then you've got guys who really, really like rock, and they're like, "That's a chicks band," and it's like, you know,
it's not a chicks band. Did you see the movie with Val Kilmer?
It's the best.
I love that movie. Oh
It's the best movie ever. Val Kilmer
is
and so is Kyle MacLachlan. It was all. It was perfect.
Oh.
And I had when I saw, I had just finished reading No One Here Gets Out Alive.
Yeah.
And it was like the best book ever, right? So and then with Jim Morrison,
Jim Morrison, what a
the introduction is sort of because
I know his dad was CIA. I don't care.
Yes, no, and then he also had that mystical experience. I think he saw something dying at the side of the road, and he felt that the spirit of it had passed into himself.
Yeah,
and then his fellow bandmates, I think, also felt he was Dionysus come to life, and they were waiting for him to come back.
Oh my
yes,
God,
and you could see all of that. And then what I also was always intrigued with was that I'm a Simon and Garfunkel fan, and I was like the nerdy girl who loved Simon and Garfunkel in high school. And there's a scene in it where they are on tour, but they open for Simon and Garfunkel, and the Simon and Garfunkel crowd hates them. They can feel it because they're not folk, right? They're this weird kind of, and it was really interesting.
What genre would you consider the Doors?
Oh, I would. They're not quite prog rock, because prog rock back then was always kind of had this weird medieval thing attached to it.
Medieval thing?
Yeah, if you listen to some like if you listen to some King Crimson or the early Pink Floyd, there's some kind of weird kind of.
You know what? Yeah, okay. Yeah,
and the other ones, Moody Blues.
Let's see here. Let's say hi.
Hey, I like music a lot.
She loves it. We're going to have to do a whole like segment on like, well, we are going to, because I love music.
I guess it would be
Taurus moon you have in common with Kevin.
I guess I would call the Doors. It would probably be like an intellectual, psychedelic rock, but not quite psychedelic. But because there's that drug and the influence, and they were always exploring the doors of perception and how to do things. And Jim was also that poet.
I did not know that the name of the Doors came from Doors of Perception, but it makes total sense because of what Huxley talks about in there. And it's just also Kevin has the spoken word of Jim Morrison from some of his poems that he's written, and he's overlaid them on some tracks before. I've told him to freaking record it because it's magical.
Yes,
because it matches it on a beat grid, and what he said, we are stoned, immaculate, and out here. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what he said. Like out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. They're like it's just like the way he's I think
even when you listen to his other lyrics, sometimes they sound very, very pedestrian, but sometimes when you listen to Jim, you're just like, it's something very, very different. And I think the other thing that, there was no doubt that Jimmy died, and there was no doubt that Janet died, but Jim Morrison was, maybe he's not dead, right? And now we would have to assume.
Wait, how did Jim
overdosed?
Oh yes.
So what happened is that like things were falling apart.
I always am sus about overdose deaths.
But what happened was that he was not in North America. He was in France. So he and I forgot what her name was, but yes, and she apparently found him in the bathtub.
Yes, I remember that from the
And
movie,
I don't think anybody got to see the body. So there's a whole bunch of other things that she put into play. Yes, and so a lot of people believe that he's not dead, that he faked his death.
I'd love to believe that.
Yeah, but now we're at a point where even if he did fake his death, he's at the age where he could have easily had leave us now, and we would never ever really know. So we don't know that alternate life he had.
I love Jim Morrison too. I have to do his Astro. I've known his Astro.
Yes, I would think his Astro would be quite.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm gonna find out what sign he is right now. But let's loop it back to what
I would think he's either a water. I want to say he would be a water sign or a fire sign.
Do you guys know who Jim Morrison? What his sign is? Let's see here.
I want to call because of who he is. I would like to make him a Sagittarius. I don't know if he's a Sagittarius.
That sounds like it might be right.
Right, like he seems like a Sagittarius,
like
but he was also
wandering traveler.
Yes, and very thoughtful and still very, very poetic. But making mistakes along the way.
Jim Morris. I'm sure that there's an astrology already.
But there has to be an astrology on him already, and I think he would be one of the few people that everybody would flock to do an astrology on.
100%.
Like that's just like a. I would think there'd be one on Peter Sellers, and I would think there'd be one on Andrew.
You are good, Joanne.
And Andy Warhol.
Sagittarius.
What day?
But guess what? His moon's in Taurus.
Oh, look at that. Okay, but you can see that too, right? Remember, even the way he looked, the leather pants, how he wore his clothes. There's a sense of luxury.
But Kevin Helson.
And he was also the Lizard King.
That's true.
Yes.
That's crazy. Oh my god.
What day?
Let's see here. December 8th.
Oh.
Wow. Wednesday. He's born on a Wednesday too. So.
Oh. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jim. How's it going? Oh my gosh. Sun in Sagittarius, Moon in Taurus, Ascendant in Aquarius. So an Aquarius rising. Voice of One, if you're still here, you're also an Aquarius rising, and that still holds. Yeah. It's like that sword at the front, kind of like social awareness, right? And because that rising sign, you're a Gemini rising. Yeah. I'm an Aries rising. So this Aries full moon.
Oh, yes.
I also have Venus and Mercury are very close together in Aries.
And I think because of but this is the period where the Aries, is it Aries, Capricorn? What are the signs that are going to be most affected by this? And they're the ones who get to get rid of all of this crap.
The cardinal signs. So there's a grand cardinal cross in the sky right now. So what it ends up looking. So Kevin was born with a grand cardinal cross.
Oh.
So I've been telling him, like, oh my gosh, do you feel activated?
And he's like,
I don't know what you. But it's actually a very difficult placement to be born under, right? Because you're never like, it's almost like all these parts of yourself are fighting each other, right? And no decision you make feels like the absolute perfect one. Yes, it's never going to be.
Yes,
that's why I'm his wife, though, because what about the present time, present moment?
Yes,
worry about that later.
And you can provide him with the grounding or that insight to be able to look at each aspect and not necessarily feel that he has to worry about
themselves, right? Every decision is like a matter of also timing. So what may be a wrong decision 10 minutes from now is a right decision now, right? So it's just some things have an expiry date as well. So
it's like doing a word search, right? You might not see, you might see that, you might go through it and you know that you've seen the word, but it's not visible to you at that until the right moment, and then you find it and it's like, well, this was clearly the time I was supposed to find it.
Exactly. And so that's like also like this topic and the tangents that we've got.
we should just call this show Tangents.
Yes, Topical Illusions, tangent time.
Yes. No, and then it's like tangents.
So bringing this back around, because I think, let me see what the time is like. We've got about 15 minutes to go. So what I'd like to bring it back around to is like, I guess, like our message. Yeah. Because when we were talking about Robin Williams at the top of this show, I have a very, like, my connection with Robin Williams through that story I had about him being the voice of the bat in Fern Gully, and my friend who called me Krista in that, and he ended up committing suicide as well. Okay. So throwing himself off a building on, like, January 1st, basically, or New Year's Eve, rather. And when I was at university at the U of M, I ended up, because I went to the gym a lot, and I made a lot of friends through the gym, and I ended up making friends with actually his therapist. Oh. He couldn't divulge a lot of stuff, but like, it's like he also knew who I was, because that relationship that I hadn't seen Elliot, I'll say his name because like Elliot, say his name. Because like that's the whole point of all of this, right? Because like I remember who he is, remember his story, I liked him as a person. Yes. Even though he got made fun of and people like were so mean to him, and I never really understood why. Because I was like that person. I'm friends with everybody. Literally, unless you're like an asshole, literally like.
But there were strange power. There are also strange power structures that occur when you're young people, as well. And then they grow up, and then sometimes they don't remember that they were ever mean, or they think, or
they don't think that what they did mattered.
Yes, or it wasn't as bad as you say it was, and it's like you don't. I have one friend who's still traumatized. Like I can still see the after effects, even though she doesn't necessarily refer to it. I can still see how it
affects her.
Yes, it damages the way she navigates through the world.
Yeah, no,
and it's like it's really huge. And then sometimes when you're on Instagram, you'll see particular generations do that.
My stars. I did not have Instagram growing up.
Yes.
It was already freaking hard as hell. And I grew up in the 90s and like early 2000s, and it only just started, like Facebook had just started when I was like graduating from university.
See, but I think, and I don't know if you agree with me, I don't think it's the younger generations that have a problem with Instagram. I think they navigate it, they post their pictures, they take it down, they sort of understand, maybe they're on it too much and they're not necessarily going out and hanging out the way they should, but the mean people are the old people. The mean people, they come on and they make comments and they call people snowflake and they do all these things and they talk about how wonderful they are. And it's like, no, they're not. Like, I find they're the problem. I find they make Instagram unenjoyable. Right? You could. I think that young people or the other generations are making really interesting comment and they're playing around with stuff and maybe they're doing things with AI and maybe it's a little scary, but they're finding their way to be and to create, and then the old people are like, well, back in the day, we never did that, and we didn't have to, and we were out by the. It's like, you know what? You know the problem? Gen X. Gen X does that a lot, and then they talk about, and then they post things and like, they'll post that guy who's like, well, who gave Gen X a free card?
Oh, okay, hold on. I'm gonna rant about something for a moment. I hate the generation stuff. Generation X, Millennials, Generation Alpha, Generation Y, bullshit. Who came up with that? Some white dude with a book. So why do we adhere to it?
But but we also have to remember that the first time it was ever used was Douglas Copeland, right?
Okay.
And he wrote Generation X. And that's why I get mad at Generation X, because Generation X will go around and they'll talk about all this stuff.
I just know Generation X from the Pepsi commercial.
Well, and it's from the book.
I know.
But then if you read the book, so the Gen X's are talking about how.
So what is Gen X? What is defined? What is that?
I believe it would be from 1965, and I think they've ended it, I think 78, and then after that it would be, I think millennials come after that.
Millennials are supposed to be, I'm supposed to be an old millennial at 85, and I'm like, I am not a millennial.
But for a while, Gen X bled into the 80s.
That's what I thought.
Yes, it did, and then they rejigged it. And
so
then
I feel like Gen X is like grunge rockers.
Yes, and right, and so they rejigged it, and they're always going to constantly do that. That's like looking at modern and postmodern.
So I think the whole thing should be thrown out, and instead,
okay, I would like to.
I propose instead for us to look at our generations where Pluto is. But that's Pluto in Leo? Are you Pluto in Aquarius?
But that's a lot of work, and it is a lot.
But it's not. At least then it's defined. Right now, you basically be like, a millennial is this, and then millennials also this.
But it's not. I get it, but I think in the terms of how this world navigates, it's not convenient. It's not, and that's why they would never go for it. You could have a small subset
you know
of
why?
people.
Because it would actually unlock you. Because I read, like, basically, you knowing your Pluto generation, it's like a flock of birds of consciousness.
Yes.
You basically have like a shared soul mission that you all came here with. And so if I'm a millennial, you're not looking into the fact that you're not like those other ones that are born, let's say, my Pluto and Scorpio generation, hey guys, I see you. Because Pluto was in Scorpio for the shortest amount of time. It was only 10 years. It's going to move into Aquarius in November for like 30 years.
Yes, and that's when we enter that
age
of Aquarius.
And so those babies, my book that is for them. Yes. It's for the babies, for Pluto being born in Aquarius. Yes. Because those babies are going to be imprinted with the lot of like intel. Like they're already going to be fresh into this world, like with already things that they already know. So we have to be able to support them.
Yes.
To be able to like take us.
And I think the people who know and respect and appreciate that, they would be willing to go into those groups, but it would be a self thing because it's not convenient for governments. And
but that's the thing though, right?
Yeah.
Why do we just do the same thing, the same classification without adding granularity to it?
Because it's
if
easy.
It doesn't actually
because I think it does it. It did once upon a time, but then what happens is we're fractious.
Yeah.
And so then we start to fight. We start to bigger. So when I go back to Gen X and I'm angry at them, it's like, but if you read the book,
but your guy who wrote the book,
yeah.
Good for him though. I agree with that.
Yes,
but no one now has taken that. And taken it the step further, which is what.
Yes, I exactly, which is why I get angry, because if they read the book, they would see that they were dumb. They were just dumb kids, right? They had no direction. They really had no job. They were like every other young kid that you see in every generation.
Yeah.
But what has happened
trying to figure yourself out.
But what has happened is because they can use it for statistics, and because you can use it as a demographic that you sell to, and it's because you can create things that you feel you can define it, and so that's why all of this other depth won't happen. It'll be us. But it won't be them. And they're always going to do those things and then whatever the new phrase that's going to be, because before Gen X, what were we? It was old people and young people. Right? And then I guess it was just the boomers, right? We recognized who boomers were. What was the term? It was fortuitous that Douglas Copeland wrote that book, because I don't know what they were called after. Before the book was written. I just feel like
everyone should just know astrology a little bit more, and if you know where your Pluto sign is, and you know if someone else is also in that Pluto sign, you're going to know, like.
But there's enough people who are who would then lump us with the flat earthers, or but they would, right? They because it's a pseudoscience, right? It's right. And then you got the Neil deGrasse, you got the Neil deGrasse Tysons who would poo-poo it or whatever, and it's like, well, the same way. you can believe in science, and we all believe in science. Why isn't it that we can't believe that there's other things that are out there that we don't necessarily know just because we don't know how to put it in the proper rules or regulations or all the structure doesn't mean that it doesn't have import and it doesn't still affect us.
Right. Well, I feel like astrology is far more scientific than astronomy.
Yes.
Because science is observation.
Yes.
Right? You have a hypothesis, you have a scientific method, I'm going to test this hypothesis using this method. I know this because I did my thesis in inter and intra relationships.
Okay.
Racial relationships, because I'm come from a mixed race babe. Like, I'm a mixed race baby, and so I was interested in couples that were either dated within the race, outside of the race, and all the nuances behind it, right? And so I used like certain tools. I set up my scientific method. I did a whole psych study because to get an honors degree in psychology, you need to do. I have a published psychology. I worked under a prof, and like I did all like.
But was this for your BA or was
this was for my honors degree, like undergrad, because
that's why, because back then it was like the 3-year degree or the 4-year.
It was I did mine in 4.5 years.
Yes, and then then it was before it was they don't use it. They don't think they use the honors designation anymore. They've changed it.
No, but I did a double honors in English and English literature and psychology. But for my psychology one, I had to do a research study that was published under. I wasn't the main scientist. It was hers.
And it was U of M?
U of M, yeah.
That's cool.
You can find. Yeah, so it's inter and intra-racial relationships. And so I found that there's cool things I found, right? Like people who are in interrelationship, like you date outside your race, you're less likely to have children.
Oh.
But you actually have like more sexy time.
You have more fun.
More like exoticness.
Yes.
Yeah, but they don't stay together as long. There's just some things that I found about those like the nuances.
It would be interesting to revisit it and see that that's still the case now.
Oh sure. But I had to go through and like look at like different what is the word for them? Models. So for example, in psychology, you have different models by which you test things like loyalty or degree of perception that there are other partners or replacement partners.
Okay.
So there's like different models.
So and that would be the thing where and I hate to say it, sometimes when you follow groups where they try to pit men and women against each other, but sometimes what will happen is you'll see that there's a thread among men where it was like they'll talk about a woman and she's left, and it will be like, well, she has somebody. She already there's a belief that that the woman already had some. She was and it goes back to like how we would have been as hunter and gatherers. She's always looking for the better model that's going to take care of her. But there's that thing where that other person, the other partner is already in play somewhere, and she's and this relation didn't was deteriorating because she had already
chosen another replacement. So she's like,
yes, and it's already in play. Yeah.
Let's see where.
I want to. You have to figure out a way to get me like a scroll so I can go back afterwards and read all these things.
I will find the ones that respect men, so women make.
No. I didn't mean to do that, but I just meant, but that sometimes you see that what she was talking about. You see that pop in where it's like, yes, there's that idea that yes, women have picked another person. Men have it really hard, and I've had some friends who have gone through some really, really tough stuff. So it's like, yeah, no, you can't. It's not as easy as that. But I was recognizing.
I have a story from when I was in university about a friend of mine who was like on the hockey team, and he had like a fake false rape charge against him, and it like ruined his entire life. And this chick was a bitch.
Yes.
So that was tough.
Yes, it did.
To help him with, and it ruined his life, and it was just it ended up coming out that like it was all like
Yes, there are some ways that both genders can do each other really, really dirty, but sometimes I have had friends who are male who have had things by women, and you're just like, oh.
And they're in a position where they can't like. How do you? It's hard to navigate things, and they trap them in certain situations.
Yes.
Like if you think of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, that whole thing that ended up happening, and Amber Heard just crazy.
Yes, like.
She's
Sorry, that would be some. You didn't see my mouth say the word, so it didn't really come out.
But what a beautiful girl, though. She was beautiful, but
yes, but the ugliness. You saw that other stuff, and then you're just like And
then tainted Aquaman.
Yes, it did, and then I'm angry at him because who leaves Lisa Bonet?
Who does leave Lisa Bonet? Oh my gosh!
Like, are you stupid. You're stupid. I mean, Lenny Kravitz did it once, but what? Right? And have you noticed that
Also, Zoe Kravitz's newest movie, Blink Twice, super good.
Is it?
Watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about Diddy, basically.
Okay, interesting. I
She
feel
does some intel. Like,
that would be. I'll go look for
I
it.
love Zoe though. I think
See, I love
beautiful.
Lisa, and but I also feel that she's like a siren, like not necessarily singing. Lisa, Sarah McLachlan is a vocal siren, like her music pulls you. Yeah, but her music pulls you under. But I feel that Lisa Bonet has that kind of power, and I believe that there's some people who have that kind of power for their partners. I believe that Lisa Bonet, when you're with her, they sort of she bigs you up. Because he's not like he was before. I'm sorry. You're not hearing everybody go, oh, Jason Momoa, like they were.
Jason Momoa when he was Khaleesi.
But he was with Lisa. But he was with Lisa then.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. He had that. Yeah.
And then
that was my favorite.
And then you have somebody like Madonna, and all the men that she's with, when she's with them, they sort of tank, right? Sean Penn sort of.
Sean Penn, I don't like Sean Penn.
No, but there was a period of time where he has that role. He has that movie where he plays an intellectually disabled.
I Am
person.
Sam.
I think so. He has the daughter.
Dakota Fanning.
Yes, that was a good movie. Yes,
yeah.
he has a good. He can act.
Also, the movie The Game.
I don't know.
The Sean Penn. Oh my gosh, is that Michael Douglas? I have to double check.
That sounds like Michael Douglas.
Let me see if someone can help. Let's see here.
This is going left. We always do that. I'm so sorry.
You guys need a podcast. Sorry. Johnny was beautiful too. Word no. Johnny was beautiful. Auntie, all of a sudden, Sean. So Sean Penn. Like,
who looks familiar? Who's
Joanne? Oh yeah, this is Joanne, my friend Joanne. So we're now doing a weekly Topical Illusions.
Yeah, we've done two
shows for this is our second one.
This is our second here, but yes. I've done one TikTok.
Yes.
And then before. I've done two other.
Yes.
Before.
Yes. I'm organizing my content, you guys. I'm very well aware. I'm all over the place, so no worries. Okay, no, we're good. Okay, so Auntie, all of a sudden, Sean. Okay, so Sean Penn, I'm not the biggest fan of Sean Penn. I don't know why. He's just kind of like seems a little.
I think over time, and then he's become ugly, and then he's got those weird things that when I say ugly, like inside, like there's an anger.
No, I know. Yeah, it does seem like he's very.
And he did that thing with a cartel member. There was some other weird stuff that he did. If you go back, he's done some stuff where he's dealt with very bad people in South America. I can't remember especially. Yeah, there's stuff like that. But but I also feel that the Madonna thing sort of pulls stuff out because Guy Madden, was it Guy Madden? No, Guy Ritchie. She was married to Guy Ritchie.
I remember that.
Yes, and he was like hotter than hot, and then they got married, and it's like, what movies does he do now? Like the movies, like they all. Ugh.
He's quite nice home theater. Okay. I wish it was my home theater. It kind of. I'm in an undisclosed cinema location, so we're gonna do some. Actually, let me see the time here. Okay, we gotta get out of here because I have this only till 8. I didn't realize we go so late, but we have probably a grace period of time.
Yes, or we'll come back and we'll do a part 2.
Oh, we'll do a part 2. So the topic of today
was supposed,
and we did talk about that.
Yes, and we can go back. Well, now we have food for thought, so we can come back to it again. And then if you guys also have some ideas or some thoughts about it, because we're looking at about individuals who have had. Physical manifestations, possibly of trauma, that have sort of changed the way that they perform or the way that they appear or the way that they maneuver in the world. And mine was Robin Williams. You were supposed to talk about Christopher Reeve.
I totally missed talking about Christopher Reeve.
So we will still have to talk about Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
And then there's people like Tracy Morgan. And I keep thinking there are a few other actors. And there's that long time ago, there was Frances Farmer.
Who's that?
She was an actress, I believe, in the 40s.
Okay.
And not Glenn Close. Jessica Lange played her, and apparently she was a fireball and she was a firebrand, and she was problematic for Hollywood studios. And they did not quite a lobotomy, but they did ice pick therapy. So back in the day, they
ice pick.
Yeah, it was yes. So they would then affect a part of your brain. But then when she came out of it, she no longer had. She was what they wanted. She would not cause a scene, but she had no more personality. She couldn't act. Now that was huge. It was a film, I think, in the 80s. Now they're coming out and they're not necessarily sure it's a true story, but it was a book first, and then it was a movie. But that would be another performer that would have had that. I'm pretty sure there are also musicians that have had moments where they've either possibly OD'd or whatever, and then they come back, and are they quite the same. Or you have people like David Bowie, who would have had a severe drug problem, and actually he came back different. Like, you know, he went.
So what happened to David Bowie?
Well, but the addictions, I think, were so strong.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, oh man. Okay, so actually, let's do a wrap up of this talk where we talk about transformation. We'll revisit this topic, I think, in the future. Next week, yeah. I'm like, next we talk tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm planning on doing a little music video dance class here. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be live, you guys. Maybe next week it will be live. But it's about revisiting. Do you guys remember Nat King Cole and Natalie King Cole and the song Unforgettable? And you know how like Natalie's singing with her dad even though he's passed?
Yes.
And so this concept of like bridging timelines through like movie magic. So we'll be back in the cinema tomorrow, but I'm doing a very unique dance class where I'm learning like I grew up in the prairies. We didn't have fancy dance classes or anything like that or anything commercial. So I learned from the music videos.
Yes.
And I had dreams of coming out to Toronto and like auditioning for Electric Circus and like being on Much Music or something.
Much Music, yes. Electric Circus, no. But that was because I didn't like the hostess.
Who's the hostess again? I never paid attention to her.
It was Monica Diol.
Okay, she was okay.
And then I
miss when Rick was Rick the Temp, not E.T. Rick Cabanelli.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But what is he on? Is he on?
He's on E.T. Isn't he Entertainment Canada? No, or something. Am I missing something?
No, you're right. And I think but he also appears. I think he's on Breakfast Television now.
He might be.
He's doing something else.
He's not Rick the Temp anymore. That's the point.
No. I agree. And then we've lost a lot of people in terms of Master T is still out there. And
Is he?
And he has an Instagram.
Dance Mix 95 was my favorite CD for the longest time. I remember Mr. T was on the inside inlet cover doing this. And I was like, Mr. T.
Yes. And then there would have been the Trace Elements. What was his name? Christopher. Do you remember Christopher Ward? He was like one of the early VJs on when it was.
I wanted to be a VJ so
everybody.
bad.
Yes, it was so cool.
So maybe we can bring that back.
Yes.
This whole VJ concept. So that'll be kind of what's coming in terms of like our esoteric movie review because Joanne hasn't seen The Fifth Element. No. There's a few other movies too I think that you've seen that like I think would be like worth like a rewatch together, right? Because what movies, just like comic books and stories and everything, when you watch them with other people, when you watch them at a later time, they always have something different.
Yes, or they have the ick. So because I'm a Simon Garfunkel fan.
I'll let you preface it.
Yes, everybody needs to know. But there's The Graduate that starred Dustin Hoffman, and it features Simon and Garfunkel music in it. It's like Mrs. Robinson.
Praise to you, Mrs. Robinson.
Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa. But it's about I think his name is Jonathan, and he's engaged to whatever her name is, and Mrs. Robinson tries to seduce him.
Yes.
And it's like, and then now when you look at it, you're like, that's just icky. It's really icky. Like you can't.
Dawson's Creek.
I love
the teacher Pacey. Yeah,
I love Pacey. I don't mind Pacey.
I'm Team Pacey.
Yeah, everybody's Team Pacey. But what was Dawson's ex-girlfriend? I was not happy when Pacey was hanging out with her. I was like, you could. Why would you do that? Like why? No, and Joshua Jackson.
What a babe. He's Canadian too.
Yes, he is. He's living in BC, but is he dating? He left. However, he left his wife. And they have a child, but he's with, I think, Lupita Nyong'o now.
Is he really?
I think he's with Lupita. He's either with Lupita or he's with another actress. But I think everybody loves Lupita. But it's like, there's that thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so next week, what we're going to talk about is, before we went off on a tangent.
We're going to call the show Tangents.
It's like Topical Illusion Tangents.
Yes.
Love that. Actually, they add a little extra sauce to it.
It's Tangents via Topical Illusions. Yes, it might be. It might be.
Because the tangents are always the most fun. I feel like sometimes with the live and whatever comes
up. It's like the Wikipedia. I gave her a Wikipedia deep dive the other day, so I can't even remember what I started off with.
Oh yeah,
I started off with Zippy the Pinhead, and then Zippy the Pinhead went to Schultzy the Pinhead, who was based on, and Schultzy was in a movie called Freaks, which is like a big cult classic film.
I know Freaks.
And then from Freaks, I went to the Chang brothers, and they were Siamese twins, and those Siamese twins were the inspiration for Dead Ringers, and then Dead Ringers brought me to David Cronenberg.
David Cronenberg's a Toronto boy.
Yes, and then we were thinking about movies that are going to be set in Toronto. So then I went in this whole David Cronenberg kind of thing, and that's also quite interesting. And I was going to find you my pod. Remember I told you I went to that exhibit, and I have a picture of myself.
Cronenberg, Cronenberg's a whole other thing, and I feel like that's very.
He's also, his early films also have this weird sex element to them. That's kind of.
They always do.
Yeah, not the later
one. He's
one.
a little horny.
Is it,
I feel like
weird horny.
Always a little horny.
He's the one who has like tentacles in his home somewhere. It's just like, yeah, he's got shivers.
Yeah, what does that say about Toronto? I don't know. Mouth of Madness is filmed here, which is like we'll revisit. Also, The Boys. We actually can talk about also like our star sightings that we've had. Like
yes, I have not seen Billy Butcher yet, but if
I have seen him in full makeup as Butcher,
I just need to see
street. Yeah,
and I have not seen The Boys. But if you
haven't seen.
No, no, because I don't. I come home and I'm tired, and I don't bother. I don't bother with the Netflix or all the things. Even
okay, fair enough.
Yes, but he wasn't Thor, and was he Skrug? And he was a useless character in Thor Ragnarok, but then he redeemed himself.
Keith Urban as oh my gosh, Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
When really he should be Kano. He looks like Kano. I don't understand.
Wait, Mortal Kombat, was that the one with Christopher Lambert?
Yeah.
Yes, I think I saw that movie, and he can't really speak because it's not his language. I saw that one.
I love that one. The first Mortal Kombat.
Yes, I saw. I remember seeing
Christopher
that one.
Lambert also I love because of Highlander.
Everybody loves him because of
But also I went back and watched Highlander. I was like, wow, your Scottish accent is really bad.
See, I did a Highlander deep dive maybe a week or so ago as well.
We need to revisit that. Yes. Me and my sister and Laura, like we loved Highlander.
My friend,
the TV show.
My friend Margaret loved Highlander, the TV show.
And
was it Connor McLeod or the?
No, Duncan MacLeod was the hot one.
Yes,
Connor was not as high.
So it was Duncan MacLeod of the Clan of MacLeod, and my friend would do the whole thing. Yes, and all
the secret sword and your trench coat.
Oh yes,
which really is an allegory for something else.
And then it was also odd because Sean Connery was in the movie. I think.
Yeah, as Ramirez, as a Spanish guy.
And I'm like, but you're Scottish. Like, how does
and Christopher Lambert's going on trying to do a Scottish accent.
They had really good drugs back then. They did.
Christopher Lambert does that laugh, right? He has that laugh he always does, like.
Yes. Yes, I remember that too. Yes, and he always looked like he had cotton in his mouth when he spoke.
Oh my gosh, I love him though. It's okay.
Is he doing anything now?
No. He's really big in sci-fi though. So France also is really big into sci-fi. That's something to look at.
Okay, another tangent.
We got to wrap.
We're
coming in 2 seconds. Okay, so we're getting kicked out of the room.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. And next week we're gonna be talking about music as far as how they relate to movies, so like soundtracks and stuff. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
And until next time.
Bye.
Stay beautiful, everybody. I'm proud of you guys.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta get out of here.